9:14 p.m. Eastern time here in New York City. It's quite cold too. I think it's only about 32 degrees, maybe 33 degrees Fahrenheit. With the wind chill, it may even feel like it's in the high 20s. So it's a pretty cold one today. We're going to be talking about a few things. Now, to note, we'll first start off with major equity indices. Now, if we go all the way back to October 2023, that's kind of when the S&P started to come out of this correction here. And since October, okay, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we had so we had 9 weeks in a row up for the market. And then we had 1 week in correction. And then we had another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks up. So we have a lot of notable earnings here. The market is pretty extended above its 50-day moving average. Currently, the market, the S&P closed at 4975. The 50-day comes in at 4820. Now, there's a few notable earnings reports we need to talk about. Number one being NVIDIA tomorrow. If we go to slickcharts.com, oops, sorry about that. Once again, if we go to slickcharts.com, we'll be able to see the market capitalization breakdown for the S&P 500. Now, NVIDIA makes up over 4% of the entire index. So out of the entire S&P 500, NVIDIA makes up 4.24% of the entire index, followed by Apple, that makes up about 6.36%, and then Microsoft making up about 7%. So this is going to be a very, very closely watched earnings report tomorrow, because let's say if NVIDIA reports lackluster earnings, or let's say if they even beat on both the top and the bottom line, but they guide poorly, you know, the stock could pull back and draw down the rest of the indice with it. If you read the newsletter that I sent out on Thursday, one of the topics we were talking about is a potential sector rotation. What we want to see, right, when we, assuming that this is a new bull market, which I think it is, the first leaders to come out, right, are your true market leaders, the TMLs, okay? Then once those are extended, what you really want to see you want to see all of those leaders pull back, right? But what you really want to see is, as they pull back, you want to see rotation into the tier 2 and the tier 3 names, right? We want to see more participation across the board. We want to see the Russell 2000 and small caps starting to participate. We want to see micro caps starting to participate, and a lot of the second-rate individual stocks. We want to look and see if money will then flow into there. So NVIDIA will be doing a deep dive into their corporate earnings tomorrow night. Today, speaking of TMLs, or true market leaders, we had a major cybersecurity company that reported after the close today, Palo Alto Networks, ticker symbol PANW. They beat on both the top and the bottom line, but guidance was poor. Now, they actually revised guidance downward, and the guide for the upcoming quarter was lower than Wall Street's expectations. So earnings per share came in at $1.46, beating the expected $1.30 on revenue of $1.98 billion, when the street was expecting about $1.97 billion. If we want to talk about profitability or net income, Palo Alto Networks brought in $1.7 billion for the quarter. But as we know, I never like to say that one particular part of an earnings report is more important than the other, but a guide, right? If you're buying a stock, you want to know what's in it for you over the next coming quarters. And guidance was a little bit lackluster. So the stock is down, I think, about 25% after hours. However, that stock, very, very extended. Due to that fact, let me just pull up some more names here because I'm near my computer. But for some context, the 50-day on Palo Alto is at $325. Cash close today was about $366. So let's see. In after hours, we're trading just below the 50-day. So you really don't want to see the stock living below the 50-day, but if we can regain some traction and regain some footing there, that would be great. Also, Zscaler, ticker symbol ZS, which is another leader in cybersecurity, down on the report of Palo Alto Networks, as well as CrowdStrike, ticker symbol CRWD, down off that earnings report as well. We'll quickly check commodities and then we'll get started here. We'll take a look at crude oil futures, trading at about $77 per barrel. Last but not least, we'll go to some precious metals, looking at gold. We're going to talk about gold a lot tonight too. Gold rallying back above $2,000 an ounce. Futures trading at 2,026 currently. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close up the laptop here. I'll say hello to everybody in the chat. Hopefully you all are having a fantastic Tuesday. And we are going to head towards Grand Central Station tonight. Once again, you have 1 Vanderbilt, 270 Park, and all of MetLife. So give me a moment and we'll get started. Thanks for joining. Alrighty, let's see who we got. Oh, and just a quick announcement, if you guys have not yet received it already, Thursday we did send out our free investing newsletter where we talk about all things US equities, fixed income, emerging markets, and New York City real estate. So if you'd like to receive that, feel free to scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, and we send it out every other Thursday. That is our Substack. So welcome to Park Avenue, everybody. If my voice sounds a little bit low tonight, please forgive me. I got a little bit of a tickle in my throat tonight, so apologize. I see Austin City Limits. What's going on? Western Mass. Dave, welcome. Michael John, welcome. Sharon says evening. Bree Grams, Lori Crockett Owens, Matthew M. Always a pleasure to have you here. Let me just get the QR code off the screen. Pretty quiet night in Manhattan. Today was a pretty dead day in the city, for whatever reason. Ryan is here. Sabina, NAV 407. Rocky Rocks, what is going on? Ali Star. Yeah, Bezos is selling a lot of Amazon. We'll talk about that. My friend, apparently the Space Force base, yes, we have a new branch of the military. The Space Force is going to be located right there in Satellite Beach. So that's going to bring a lot of jobs, a lot of revitalization to the area. So looking forward to that. Joe Ratz, what's up? I think we're going into a little buffer zone here. Let me see. Maybe we have maybe there was a little bit of a dead zone. Anyway. We just missed a few seconds of the dialogue. Yeah, so I was talking about, someone was bringing up Jeff Bezos selling a lot of Amazon stock. And what I had said, the lens needs to be wiped. Let me see. Hold on. Stand by. What about now? We good? Should be good. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so, Jeff Bezos, obviously no longer the CEO of Amazon. quite obviously. But he said on multiple podcasts that he's going to be focusing the majority of his time now. Somebody said it looked better before. I think you guys are just trolling me. That's all right. Anyway, Jeff Bezos said he's going to be spending the majority of his time on Blue Origin, which is his rocket company that competes with Elon Musk's SpaceX. So before we started to kind of buffer there, I just recently found this out, and we've talked about this before, but in South Florida, okay, just about an hour and a half, I think about 2 hours north of Fort Lauderdale, there's a town called Satellite Beach, Florida. And that is going to be the new headquarters of Elon Musk's SpaceX, number one. Number two, Blue Origin is going to be there. I think that's also where they do the space shuttle launches for NASA. But last but not least, that is where the new Space Force base is going to be based out of. So yeah, we have a new branch of the military called the Space Force, and that is going to be in Satellite Beach. So those are all really high-paying jobs, right? Now, I was actually down in South Florida about a month ago meeting with a real estate developer who is putting on a pretty interesting project in Satellite Beach. It's going to be luxury condos right on the ocean. And one of the things we were talking about is, you know, Satellite Beach really doesn't have any new product at that level to support all the new job growth down there, right? You know, these are quite literally, no exaggeration, rocket scientist jobs. You know, if you work at SpaceX, Blue Origin, Space Force, you know, if you're doing the shuttle launches down there, those are pretty lucrative paying jobs. And from the data that I've been seeing, you know, you're talking about salaries 300,000 plus. So there does need to be new product, new inventory to kind of satiate that demand and service that new economy that's going to be growing down there. So maybe that's another reason why Bezos decided to change his primary residence, I believe, away from Washington, state of Washington, and now to Florida. Number one, to be closer to his family. Number two, you know, as he is selling his Amazon stock to fund, this is one Vanderbilt right here, he's selling his Amazon stock to really double down and fund that venture, Blue Origin, which is interesting. You know, we'll see what comes about out of that. It seems as if a lot of these billionaires, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, just to name a few, are so adamant about getting us to be an interplanetary species. And I think I support it. I think I support it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think the investment, the time, the money, the resources, do you think that's being properly allocated into becoming, getting us to Mars and becoming an interplanetary species? I would argue yes, mainly for the reason that, you know, if you had the government allocate these funds, it would probably just go to more missiles to launch at, you know, random countries overseas and stuff like that. So, you know, I mean, if you can get us to Mars and if we could sustain ourselves up there, I mean, hey, I guess I'm for it. Might as well join the party. All right, this is 5th Avenue and West 34th Street right here. I know Cosmo says we need a walking stream on Mars. If Elon ever asks me to do so, I will be the first, we'll do the first live stream on Mars. Well, first walking live stream on Mars. I'm down for that. This may take a lot of time and money to get there. Alfonso S., what's going on? Thanks so much. Yeah, collector's dreams is fix our country first, or fix the planet first. I mean, if you want to, you know, even zoom out on a macro level, you know, there's a lot of problems going on here at planet Earth. But then again, maybe that's why a lot of these billionaires are planning their, maybe not necessarily an exit plan, but maybe a plan B. Who knows? Generally speaking, I think it's appropriate to continue progress in human civilization. And if that means we can self-sustain on another planet, I think that's great. Sabrina Fair says we aren't going to Mars. I don't know. I think if I had to place a bet, right, just for fun, I think within my lifetime, right, knock on wood, please God, you know, if I make it to 85 years old, I think we'll have people inhabiting Mars, you know, by the time I'm 85 years old. There may be a small colony up there, right? There may be like 50 to 100 people, but I think we'll actually have people be living in like dome-style pods on Mars, you know? I think that's very possible. And the reason why I say that, totally piece of anecdotal information here, but my grandmother used to tell me this story about how she was in parochial school way back in the day, and she made a comment. She's like, yo, we're gonna go to the moon. You know, we're gonna put somebody on the moon. And the nun at the time, you know, said, that's ridiculous, Eileen. There's no way. You know, God created Earth. Humans don't go on the moon. Well, then we went to the moon, and now we're going to Mars. So you never know. Never say never. Yeah, Michael J says, even if it ends up being a waste, and we never leave this planet, all of those efforts lead to money in the pockets of hardworking people now. True. Very true. And you could say the same thing about, you know, these other companies that Elon Musk has spun up, right? Like Neuralink. How many people are opposed to Neuralink in the chat? Probably a lot of you. But you never know. You never know. It may sound crazy to have a chip implant in our heads, but what if that leads, excuse me, to cures for blindness? You know, what if they could make somebody that's paralyzed walk again? That's possible with those Neuralink chips. So, you know, even though I think it may be a little bit kind of dystopian in nature, it's appropriate to have an optimistic outlook on this crazy stuff that we're trying to do and say, okay, let's lean into it a little bit, even though we're a little bit uncomfortable with it, right? So, am I gonna run out and get a chip in my head? Probably not. But 2 weeks ago, or excuse me, not 2 weeks ago, about a month ago, we were talking about how Elon and Neuralink came out with a breaking news announcement that the first successful Neuralink chip was implanted in somebody's skull, and that they are making a speedy recovery. It's actually working. So, you know, this is the year 2024, and we already have chips in people's heads. Fast forward 20 years, you know, what do you think we'll have? So, all right, we're coming up on Herald Square here. Hey, Brad's Brain, what's going on? Yeah, Bezos is ridiculously smart. Alex says, I think it's a shame that we're even asking whether we should go to Mars or not. Of course we should. It's our next step. I think I agree. Rocky Rocks is not rocket, but anti-gravity can bring Mars near. I don't know. I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to browse through the comments here. Tree Cons, we have not been to outer space. Are you serious, or was that a joke? I don't know. I didn't say that. Maybe there was somebody in the comments. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, you never know. You never know. It always reminds me of this quote, and I think it was Bill Gates who said this. I'm not sure if it was him, it may have been somebody else. But people they tend to severely overestimate what we can do in a year, but severely underestimate what you can do in about 10 years, right? And this applies to markets, this applies to, you know, new breaking innovative technologies. This applies to medical breakthroughs too. And it makes sense, because when you have something new and shiny and you're working on it, you think it's going to change the world and revolutionize things so quickly. And in a year, people get, you know, a little bit overhyped. There's that little bit of an irrational exuberance, if you will, and not a lot of progress gets done. And then you kind of have people get discouraged, you get a little bit of a washout in the market. And then in 10 years, I mean, look what you build in 10. a great example of that is the tech and telecom bust of 2000, right? In the year 2000, all of these .com stocks were going up just because they had .com in their name. You know, fast forward 10 years, fast forward 20 years. I mean, look at the progress we've made with cloud computing. Just pretty much in the year 2012, if you really think about it, you couldn't readily live stream in 1080p in just the year 2012. So all the things that we could do now just weren't possible but 10 years ago. So I don't know, I'm optimistic for the future. I'm optimistic for becoming an interplanetary species. And I think a lot of these other, I would say, you know, secondary projects that Elon is working on and all these other megalobillionaires like Jeff Bezos, I think it's going to do a lot of good. Particularly the Neuralink is I'm most excited about that technology for sure. All right, this is West 35th Street. This is Herald Square. Western Mass Dave, what's going on? KM Ramsey, what's up, Tom and chat? Good to see you, KM Ramsey. Now, tomorrow we're going to be doing a deep dive into NVIDIA's earnings. So NVIDIA will report tomorrow, and that's a pretty big report, right? So goes NVIDIA, really so goes the market. I should say so goes Microsoft, so goes Apple, so goes NVIDIA, so goes the market. This is a pretty good resource if you want to check it out. It's called slickcharts.com, and it'll give you an interesting breakdown of the S&P 500 by market cap. And right now, NVIDIA makes up, I believe, 4.4% of the entire index. So, you know, if you have NVIDIA, let's say they report a great quarter and the stock is up, you know, 10% after hours, that's going to lift the whole market. But if NVIDIA, let's say that they report a lackluster earnings report and it's down 10, 15% after hours, you know, that's going to drag the rest of the market down. And as I've said at the beginning of the stream, we've kind of reviewed this. The market, or the S&P, has closed green 6 weeks in a row. We're a little bit extended from the 50-day. All of the true market leaders are up and out and extended. So if we can get these stocks to pull back here, and hopefully we get a nice rotation into some of the smaller caps, micro cap names, you know, that'll give the market just enough time to kind of pull back, build these stage 2 bases, and then hopefully as we rock into the summer, we make our next leg higher. That would be a Goldilocks scenario, I should say. But all is really riding on NVIDIA. If you think about the main drivers that everybody's talking about, I'll give you a hint. AI, right? Artificial intelligence. I think the new orders, I should say the forward guidance, it's all going to depend on how NVIDIA guides. I don't think anybody's going to pay too much attention if they actually beat their quarterly EPS and revenue estimates this quarter. I think everybody is just going to be focused on how does NVIDIA guide for the quarter. Because if guidance is lackluster, you know, that means you're going to have a little bit of a slowdown in this whole AI craze, and maybe the staying power of artificial intelligence needs to take a little bit of a pause. Another thing we're going to be exploring tomorrow night, not to ramble on too much, is the concentration of NVIDIA's revenue. Now, it's true, you have very, very high concentration of customers, but that's to be expected because major companies like Microsoft and the like need these chips to build out their AI tools. And it just so happens the leaders in AI and cloud computing happen to be companies like Microsoft with their Azure product, Amazon with their AWS, and the like. So I'll be keyed into that earnings report tomorrow. I think it's a make or break day for NVIDIA. Okay, everybody, this is West 38th Street. If you look all the way down, you can see the spire at One World Trade Center. Pretty cool. It's a clear night. Townhouse is Tom. I sent you an email on elite stock sell-off. I will check my email. My friends. Manu Manu says, hello USA, bonjour from Paris. Love that. I would love to go to France. Love to go to France. T-Cows, people are moving back to San Francisco AI boom, many from Florida. Yeah, I'm very bullish on San Francisco. Now, that's an interesting comment because I have a lot of friends in the VC space, and I also have a lot of friends who are founders. And what I believe, okay, and I know there's a lot of negative news, negative sentiment around San Francisco for obvious reasons, right? We can make an entire stream talking about everything that's wrong with San Francisco, but the founder, I should say, talent pool is still very, very strong in SF. The narrative that everybody is fleeing San Francisco, there's no more founders there, you know, VCs aren't interested in San Francisco. That's just not true. That's not true. There's a very, very robust pipeline for talent in San Francisco still. There's actually been many new startups moving to San Francisco. So, you know, not only from the anecdotal data that I'm seeing on the ground floor of a big startup culture still taking place in San Francisco and surrounding areas. You know, just look at the percentage of money, I should say VC money, going to founders based in San Francisco. This is West 40th Street, Avenue of the Americas. We're looking at Bryant Park. We're standing outside of the Bank of China, right here on 6th Avenue. It's freezing tonight. I wish I would have brought my gloves. But this is cool because you can see just a little slice of the Empire State Building here, all lit up in red. And you see One Vanderbilt here sticking up, absolutely stunning. Hey, Isabella says, hey Tom, I absolutely love your book recommendations. I just started listening to Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. Yeah, it's a really good book. Ray Dalio is, well, I was gonna say arguably, but he is one of the greatest hedge fund managers of all time. Bridgewater Associates, it's the largest hedge fund. An extremely, extremely smart guy. And that's a really good book. Principles by Ray Dalio. Great book. Fantastic book. All right, let me catch up on some of these chats. Chris B says, does One Vanderbilt ever change color? Yeah, it does. Change colors a lot. WH7 says, what are your opinions on Chicago's financial future? Well, you know, Chicago has a very, very deep-rooted history in Wall Street, right? Lots of, I mean, just amazing Wall Street talent has come out of Chicago. The number one guy that I think of when I think of Chicago, and I think you'd all agree, is Tony Saliba, right? Anthony Saliba. You know, one of the greatest options traders of all time. I think he just minted himself a billionaire right around last year. Now, you know, Anthony Saliba, and you could read some of his books if you're interested in the derivatives market, options trading. I would consume every piece of material I could by Tony Saliba or Anthony Saliba. But now he actually has his own startup now too, based in Chicago. Mercury, I believe. Mercury something. But he is making or pioneering one of the first cryptocurrency derivatives exchanges. That's sort of what he's pioneering right now. He is making a very, very big bet that this whole Bitcoin and, I should say, more broadly, tokenization ecosystem is going to take off in a big way. And he is currently building out the pipelines for, honestly, one of the most robust derivatives exchanges The company's called Mercury, if you want to check it out. Yeah, Peter says, I think, is Sam Zell. Sam Zell's a great guy. Unfortunately, we did lose him in 2023. Yeah, man, it's a bummer because we lost a lot of, Wall Street legends and titans in 2023. Oh, you guys see that? There was almost a food delivery bicycle crash. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you got to worry about when you're walking New York. The food delivery bike guys, some of them, not all of them, they blast down the bike lanes like 90 miles an hour, and they don't, Jesus. Anyway, I don't even know what I was saying, but let's take a look at the Empire State Building. Oh yeah, we were talking about legends that we lost in 2023. I actually wrote an article about that. Sam Zell, if you want to read just an amazing entrepreneurial, true American success story, it's the story of Sam Zell. I mean, his family, I believe, actually fled Nazi Germany, and he created one of the biggest real estate empires pretty much from his college dorm room. I call him the great contrarian Sam Zell. But also, I would say one of my favorite stock market operators of all time, William J. O'Neill. So Bill O'Neill, the founder of Investors Business Daily, who sold his company to this company right up here, News Corporation, for about $250 million, which I think was a steal. William O'Neill passed away last year. And then I think the most notable and most famous was Warren Buffett's right-hand man, unfortunately passed away as well. I can't get enough of that red color on the Empire State Building. I'm curious as to why they lit it up in red. Look at that. Pretty unique shot. We're right outside of Bank of America Tower. That's true. Yeah, Jeff W277 says, I think he was 99 years old. God bless him, right? Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams almost every single day starting at 8:30 p.m. We walk around New York City, talk about the financial markets, and sometimes we even go off the rails a little bit. It's always fun. This is Steinway & Sons Pianos. Look at that. Cool, right? Now, I'll not to sort of deviate too much from the financial topics, but this is a little cool piece of info here. So I was taking a buyer around to this building. I'm sure many of you have heard of it, 130 William. It's an amazing building. It was one of the best-selling buildings ever in 2022. And Lower Manhattan is very, very stiff competition. A lot of the buildings down in Lower Manhattan are not selling well at all. Many of the new developments, condo conversions, are less than 30% sold, but 130 William is over 90% sold. Okay, I think there's only 8 sponsor units left in the entire building. Anyway, we were getting a tour. I was showing my buyer one of the 1 bedrooms, and they built a feature. Every single unit at 130 William has a double door feature. So I don't really know if I could explain this properly, but imagine just a regular door, and then you have a wood panel here. You can adjust the flap automatically to have both of those doors open to like a double door, and it's wide enough to fit pretty much anything. So it's not a hassle to move furniture in. You could fit a huge grand piano in. It's like a really, really well designed and thought out building, right? Because how many of you have ever moved somewhere and it's just the biggest pain in the you-know-what to move furniture in and out of the building, in and out of hallways? Everything is so articulately designed for that purpose, where you can seamlessly, easily fit, like a baby grand piano through your entranceway, through all the hallways and the turns. It's a really cool feature. And I think a lot of other buildings should have that, right? I mean, it only makes sense. I mean, every single apartment that I've moved into, I have to have like 2 friends help me, lift up the couch, just adjust it to the appropriate angle, and it's a big pain. But with this building, everything is designed specifically to be super seamless, to get around corners and hallways, and all the doors open to these big double doors. It's kind of cool. Oh, Gary, is that right? This is actually the red is in celebration of Ringling Brothers. Now, I know the Big Apple Circus sometimes comes and they set up shop at Lincoln Center. I didn't know there's a circus coming to town now. Anyway, all right, everybody, so we're gonna head directly up 6th Avenue. In the distance, you see Radio City Music Hall, but before that, we're gonna walk around New York City's Diamond District, which is gonna be just ahead by the Marsh McLennan Building and Chick-fil-A. At the very beginning of the live stream, we talked a lot about Jeff Bezos selling a lot of his Amazon stock. I mean, on a relative basis, it's technically not a lot of his Amazon stock. I think it's like 4%. But he's going to use a lot of that money to plow into Blue Origin. That's going to be like his passion project now that he's kind of out of the #1 spot at Amazon. But this building is very significant. This big black building here, a hedge fund, a quantitative hedge fund, is located in this building. D.E. Shaw, David Shaw and Co. are right here. And not a lot of people know this. I've told this story a million times, but we do have a lot of new listeners and viewers. Before Jeff Bezos founded and started Amazon, he moved to New York City to work at a hedge fund. He was a quantitative at a hedge fund called D.E. Shaw, David Shaw and Co. D.E. Shaw is now right in this building, 1166 Avenue of the Americas. I actually used to work in this building, but on the 2nd floor. This was us on the 2nd floor. And so it's a funny story. So Jeff Bezos was a young kid out of college. He was really successful working in New York City under David Shaw, right? The guy's a multi-billionaire now. D.E. Shaw, massive successful hedge fund. And he pulls David to the side and says, David, I got a business idea and I want to, sort of talk to you about it. So long story short, they have an impromptu business meeting in Central Park. And Jeff Bezos pitches David Shaw on this idea of selling books online to customers all over the world. And David Shaw kind of turns to Jeff Bezos and says, Jeff, this is a really, really good idea for somebody who doesn't already have a really good job, right? Because he was probably making well into the 6 figures all the way back in the day. Essentially, David Shaw was like, dude, you don't need to go sell books online. You're making a pretty good salary here on Wall Street. You're well on your way to becoming, very, very financially successful. Well, to our luck, right? It's good that Jeff Bezos didn't heed the advice of David Shaw and actually quit the job and ventured out and started Amazon in pretty much a little shoebox place. And they didn't even have a folding table. They would buy knee pads to individually hand package the books and ship them out. So that's the story of, really the original story of how Amazon came to be. So, all right, this is New York City's Diamond District, right here, 47th Street. I'm actually gonna make this right and head down 47th because gold futures, I believe right now, you guys could check, we're trading back above $2,000 an ounce. 2026, I believe, is where gold is trading at right now. So we'll go right up to the corner of 47th, and then we'll make a right, and we'll do a little bit of a walking tour of New York City's Diamond District, and we'll look at some of the spot prices of gold. You could always tell if you're in the Diamond District by these 2 big diamond posts here. And that, my friends, is 270 Park Avenue. That's the brand new JP Morgan Chase Jamie Dimons building. Frank says, I knew they weren't actually based in the app. Mark the Shark, what's up? Hey, Tug Carter says, Tom, what do you think will happen to the One Seaport building? You know, I'm not really too sure. Now, that's a whole debacle in and of itself. That is a really, really interesting predicament we have going on. Now, that is the building that is not complete yet, and they had to essentially halt construction because they did such an egregious job. They didn't set the concrete right. There was something wrong with the foundation, where that if they continued to build any more, it was in jeopardy of actually collapsing and falling down. The problem there, herein lies the problem. Some of the building was actually pre-sold. So I think there's people that put deposits down on the building. I don't know if they're gonna get those deposits back. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I think they're gonna have to take it down. I don't know if they can get engineers there to make the necessary repairs, but if you've been down to South Street Seaport, you'll see this big kind of ugly, bare concrete building sticking up in the air. And it's not because it's not complete, it's because the city shut down construction because it was in jeopardy of falling over. So it's an interesting question. I don't know the answer, to be quite honest. But okay, everybody, welcome to New York City's Diamond District. It may not seem exciting right now. Okay, anytime you come to the Diamond District after 5 p.m., it's completely dead, and it almost looks like everything is abandoned. But there's a reason for that. Obviously, they put everything in the back in those lock boxes, and all of the, storage things are kind of rolled down. Yeah, Jeff W277 says China stock market was up big. Last week we had a follow-through day on the Hang Seng and the Shanghai indices. Now, China has been just, obliterated, absolutely obliterated. If you look at the outperformance of the Indian market, if you look at the outperformance of the Japanese stock market and the US stock market, the outperformance has been absolutely insane. And I've been very, very bearish China, all the way into the ground here. In fairness, and we're going to touch on this, we're going to write about it, the indice had a follow-through day last week. So if we continue to get more follow-through, we kind of got to follow the market, but still now I'm not touching the Chinese market, but that needs to be on our radar. China did have a follow-through day. Look at all this stuff. Little cool knickknacks. Hey, 10 Red Bluffs says, Tom, I'm reading Billionaires Row as per your recommendation by Catherine Clark, and I can't put it down. Thank you. Oh my God, yeah, that's a fantastic book. And yeah, wow, I'm so glad you're enjoying that. That makes me so happy. Catherine Clark is a really, really talented journalist at the Wall Street Journal. She exclusively covers real estate. So throughout her years of covering all of these big developments that we talk about each and every night on the live stream, such as Central Park Tower, 432, Park Avenue, the Steinway Building, 157. She's compiled a complete summary of just how these buildings were built on New York City's Billionaires Row, right? So if you're interested in learning about assemblage, learning about air rights, learning about how to properly assemble air rights, this process can be very, very laborious, time-consuming, costs a ton of money, and it's done strategically over decades. It kind of reminds me of the longest game of poker in the entire world. If you read the book Billionaires Row, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. It's like a massive, massive game of poker here. All right, let's check out some of these prices here in the Diamond District. This is one of the main bullion exchanges here. You can see platinum, $907. Gold is at 2027. Silver's $23, palladium $982, platinum $905. So precious metals and also Bitcoin, right? If you want to talk about the digital gold, Bitcoin and Ethereum have been performing really well. I think Bitcoin is still above $52,000 and Ethereum's up 14% in just the last week. So yeah, gold's holding above 2,000. Alex R says, I wish I was into the market 20 plus years ago. I think I would have figured Amazon was a good bet. Well, that's the good news, right? The good news is I wholeheartedly believe that there's going to be more Amazons, right? And they're just not even public yet. There's going to be more Microsofts, there's going to be more Apples. The innovation is not going to stop, right? The way I think about innovation in the United States of America is kind of exponential, if you think about it. I want everybody just to kind of go back and do an audit of their lives in the year 2000. You know, in the year 2000, you weren't walking around with a smartphone, okay? You weren't able to FaceTime your loved ones. We weren't able to do Zoom conference calls. You weren't able to use ChatGPT. I mean, and that's only, you know, 24 years ago. Think about what things are going to be in the next 24 years. You know, and in the year 2000, we started off, you know, everybody was just getting acclimated to Windows 95. So think about the new innovation that's going to come in the next 24 years, that next big leap. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be sick. Right now we have the Meta Quest headset. We have the Apple Vision Pro. There's going to be so much more technology, so much more efficiencies that's going to be coming down the pike. And if I had to make an interesting, like kind of fun prediction, I think the top 10 stocks in the S&P 500 in the next 24 years, I think there's probably going to be 2 companies currently that are in the S&P 500 now that are going to be in the S&P 500 in the next 24 years. There's going to be companies that haven't even gone public yet that are going to turn into the next $2 trillion companies. They're going to be the next Apples. They're going to be the next Nvidias, okay? It's not going to stop. If anything, innovation is going to continue to turbocharge, right? Now, does that mean the market is going to go up in a straight line? No. There's going to, over the next 24 years, you can bet with 100% certainty, there's going to be more financial crises, right? There's going to be more, you know, events, terrorist attacks, geopolitical events that rock the market. It's been like that since the beginning of time. But over the long run, what I believe at least, which doesn't mean I'm right, but over the long run, American innovation and growth will continue to propel GDP higher and will continue to propel the market higher. So I don't think you missed out. I think we're just at the ground floor of innovation, you know. We just had last month the first ever Neuralink chip implant in a human being. That's number one. We are at the ground floor of innovation now. Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams every single day starting at 8:30, and if you want to subscribe to our free investing newsletter. We send it out every other Thursday right at the market closes. We just sent it out last Thursday. If you want to read it and listen to the audio podcast version, just scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, and you will have access to our Substack, where we publish every other Thursday. And there's about 24 months of archived research right on our Substack. But we were briefly talking about Sam Zell, William J. O'Neill, and this building right here, 1211 Avenue of the Americas. This is News Corporation. So News Corporation owns Fox News, they own the Wall Street Journal, they own Barron's, and now they own Investors Business Daily. So Investors Business Daily was founded by William J. O'Neill, or Bill O'Neill. He unfortunately passed away last year, but before he passed away, he sold his company to News Corp for around $250 million. And if anybody's ever read the book, How to Make Money in Stocks, which I believe is one of the greatest investing books ever written, that is the author right there, William J. O'Neill. Sold his company to News Corp. And I think that's a perfect fit, though, by the way, right? Because you have now 3 major financial newspapers under one umbrella. You have the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, and now Investors Business Daily. Okay, now we are outside Magnolia Bakery. Looks like people are still going in here. Or maybe that's just the employees. Hey Gary, this is Ken Griffin. Spent $238 million for a penthouse at 220 Central Park South that is still under construction, making it the most expensive residential residence in history. Yeah, you're right. Now, 220 Central Park South is the best-selling building on New York City's Billionaires Row. I actually may have time to take you guys there tonight. And that was developed by Vornado. So, yesterday, if you remember, I took you guys on a walking tour of the brand new Penn 2 project that is also in development by Vornado as well, and they did 220 Central Park South to rival that of Central Park Tower, Gary Burnett's building, who was developed by Extel, as well as 157. Peter says, I wonder if they will merge IBD into Wall Street Journal. Owning both seems redundant. Not really, because IBD is more for like a trader's handbook, right? If you're actively managing a portfolio. The Wall Street Journal is more financial news, global news, like breaking news stories. IBD is more of an analyst's newspaper, right? So they'll break down not only the fundamentals of the company as it's reporting earnings, but it'll tell you some, buy points, some good entry points, things like that. Not many people who don't actively manage portfolios read IBD. They'll just really stick to the Wall Street Journal. But I do see what you're saying, to some extent, for sure. All right, let's continue to push uptown here. We just passed Radio City Music Hall. Hey, Room C says, hey Tom, hope all is well. Did we cover Palo Alto Networks yet? Joined late. Yeah, we did briefly talk about it, but let's talk about it some more. So a TML that we talk about a lot, true market leader in the cybersecurity space, Palo Alto Networks, trades under the ticker symbol PANW. They reported earnings after the bell today. They beat on both the top and the bottom line, but they guided quite poorly. So I think they lowered their forward guidance for the next quarter, and they guided lower than what many analysts were expecting. The stock is down, I think, 30% after hours. 25%, something like that, after hours going into the earnings report. And off the back of that, you also have secondary and tertiary companies. I would say the second leader and the third leader in the space also down off the back of that report. If you look at Zscaler, ticker symbol ZS, is also down after hours just on the back of that report, as well as CrowdStrike, ticker symbol CRWD. Now, this is something we've been talking about. A lot of these names that first emerged, right, that were the first ones out of the gate, right, trading at all-time record highs, consistently, day after day after day, bringing the register into new highs, those are your TMLs, right? And Palo Alto Networks is a clear example of a true market leader, but they get extended, right? The first move, I think the stock was, 18% above the 50-day. So that thing is priced to perfection going into earnings. So if you can have this thing pull back here, which it is, it's down 20% after hours. If we have a day tomorrow where it closes at the dead low, that's a concern. But if we can have a wick where we get back above the 50-day, I think that's rather encouraging. But more broadly, I want to see this market rotate out of those big mega cap names, like the true market leaders like we've been talking about, have them pull back to the 50-day and rotate into some of the secondary names. For this bull market to be sustaining, which I think it will be, we got to watch the guardrails and monitor it closely. You want to see broader participation from the Russell 2000, from the micro caps, and specifically, I would say most notably, you want to see now participation and money rotating into the second best ideas. I mean, just to name a few, I'm not telling you to go buy these. We're just having a conversation. These are some of the second rate ideas that haven't broken out into new highs. They've been laggards. You could think of like a Snowflake, right? That stock was crushed right at IPO. It was down 85%. It built out stage 1 base. And in this recent bull rally, when the S&P was up 9 weeks in a row, it never cracked all-time record highs. It's about 30% off the high. You want to start to see those kind of gain steam here while the leaders pull back, then rotate back into leaders again. At least kind of that's what I'm looking for. If it was a perfect world, that's what I'm praying for. Anyway. Hey, Matthew M. Thank you so much for your generous $5 donation. Says, I think your streams are the best, Tom and team. Hey, I hit 10. Thank you so much, Matthew M. Appreciate your support and appreciate your donation and appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. This is 53 West 53rd Street, another building on New York City's Billionaires Row. TK Porsche, Tom, the earnings call is a must-watch. Company not only disappointed with guidance, they dropped the bombshell about reducing their strategic marketing. CEO also used the term customer fatigue. Yeah, and I think they're trying to roll out a new kind of AI strategy. I think there's going to be a big org change there. I think there's going to be some consolidation between the strategic teams, the enterprise teams. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to the report. It's been a crazy day, but that's going to be one I listen to. Palo Alto, for sure. Going forward throughout the year, I think cybersecurity is still an interesting theme. I think it's still the theme. Cybercrime is only going to increase, unfortunately. And we'll see how this plays out. We'll see if this stock lives below the 50-day. We'll see if it can regain. We'll see at the open. We'll follow up tomorrow as well. What are you guys thinking for tomorrow NVIDIA's report? What are you guys expecting there? NMB 45 says for microcaps and IPOs to pick up steam, shouldn't interest rates first come down? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. They don't have to come down. But it is true that small cap companies generally tend to be helped by a lower interest rate environment, because a lot of these companies in the Russell 2000, they are what you call zombie companies. They have very, very high debt levels, and a lot of their debt levels are on adjustable rate debt, which means as interest rates go up, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to service their debt, and more portion of their revenue goes towards essentially servicing their debt. So you're right. Now, an interesting thing though about everybody's talking about, the Fed has to pivot, the Fed has to cut in order for the market to perform well. If you look back throughout history, right, look back at the start of every transition from a tightening cycle to cutting, the market almost always has, I would say, a non-favorable reaction. I would say a non-favorable reaction to the first 4 months after the Fed starts to cut. And I don't think the Fed really needs to cut, right? There's no, unless the Fed is forced to cut, if we have another systemic blow up in the financial system, right? If we have another Silicon Valley bank that has contagion effect and the Fed needs to come in here and bail everybody out. But there's really no reason for the Fed to cut, in my view. I don't know, what do you guys think? NBA Elias blowout numbers for NVIDIA. So far, no close competition. Now, NBA Elias, I have a question for you. And I also have a question for TK Porsche and everybody else in the chat. Does it concern you at all, the concentration of NVIDIA's revenue? NVIDIA has about 4 customers that drive a lion's share of their revenue. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily like a huge cataclysmic, bad thing, but it does raise some eyebrows here. It's never good when you have a company that's dependent on, a few customers. But then again, playing devil's advocate, if you think about customers like Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they all have big cloud businesses, and they're all investing heavily into AI, right? And they all own secondary businesses like OpenAI and the like that need these chips to power artificial intelligence. So is the concentration a little concerning or no? I'll say this, a lot of those leaders, right? NVIDIA is a textbook true market leader. It was one of the first stocks to ever break out coming out of this bear market, and it's sitting up at the highs, way extended from its major moving averages. So if this thing pulls back, it's actually not the end of the world. If we kind of go through a little corrective phase, if we test the breakout on the S&P and the NASDAQ 100 and kind of go through those spring doldrums and then start to roar back through the summer, I think that'd be fine. Thomas says U.S. Cellular is possibly selling. One of my old VPs is at U.S. Cellular now. I'll have to reach out to her, see how she's doing. She used to be the vice president for North America at Sprint. I should say Sprint SoftBank. Look at this. This is Steinway Tower right here, folks. This is the this is the skinniest residential apartment building in the entire world right here. Matthew M says no concern, they have ultimate longevity in the market. TK Porsche says I think there would be more and newer customers should the Mag 4 fill their requirements. Patrice 2020 says NVIDIA will do just fine. We're at the beginning stages of AI. Jimmy B says Palantir has the federal government as its biggest customer. Yeah, that's true. You know, that's another good example of a second-rate company, a second-rate idea. So if you look at Snowflake, if you look at Palantir, these were very, very hyped companies that IPO'd when there was all of this craziness, and they got hammered. All these stocks got hammered. They were down, 80% from IPO, and they're starting to build out their stage one bases. But during this first leg of the bull rally in the S&P 500, they never came out. Palantir didn't make a new high. Snowflake didn't make a new high. So, studying the market previously, historically speaking, usually the names that are up and out the first tend to outperform the secondary and third stocks that come out after. But it's a good risk proxy for the market. Hold on one second, I gotta plug my phone. It's a good sort of, you can gauge the temperature of the market risk if we start to have mega cap stocks pull back, and then we have, companies like Snowflake and Palantir start to really rock up into the highs. Will that happen? I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll look at it. But Palantir has one of those CEOs that I would argue is like a Mark Zuckerberg, is like an Elon Musk, right? When Jeff Bezos was at Amazon, kind of was like a Jeff Bezos, just a powerhouse CEO. Emmanuel says Kramer just said Nvidia is nowhere near its high. Time to sell. Yeah, that probably marked an intermediate term top for Nvidia, for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if. Hold on, let's just cross here safely. But think about it like this. I think this is very important to remember. If the S&P pulls back, let's say 4 or 5%, which is a normal correction for the market, the individual stocks are probably going to be down double that, right? Just because they have higher betas to the market. So that's not normal. That's not uncommon, right? For stocks, true market leaders, to pull back to their 50-day moving average. Stocks don't go up in a straight line. They come back down to their 50 days. They cool off. They shake out a lot of the people that were chasing into the highs, and then they resume their uptrends, assuming that earnings come in great, right? So far, the big mega cap tech companies, I think earnings have been solid. We'll see what happens with Nvidia tomorrow. We'll cover it here on the stream. Hey, hang with Mark Mom. What's up? Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on this frigid, cold night in New York City, freezing. MBA Elias says Nvidia will own virtually the entire data center chip market in just the next few years and can sustain year-over-year growth despite being a cyclical business that is currently experiencing much higher. Interesting. Yeah, there was a good clip. MBA Elias, I don't know if you saw this clip in the newsletter that I sent out, but Stan Druckenmiller was getting interviewed. I believe it was by Bloomberg. And Stan Druckenmiller was talking about Nvidia. And he's like, look, if this AI thing, or if this whole artificial intelligence thing is real, these moves in Nvidia, right, are these leading stocks that are directly correlated with the AI boom. They don't just go up for 7 weeks. These things can go up for 2 years, right, with corrections and bear markets, in the interim. But those moves are 24 months, right? So, it's already making, I think he said it's already making the top, AI is making the top coders. You could go back and look at the video. I'm not even try to paraphrase it. Whoa, that was almost a collision between these two guys. You guys see that? You almost caught that on video. Anyway, but check that out. Stan Druckenmiller was interviewed by Bloomberg. They were asking him, what do you think about AI? Do you see any similarities between the 2000 tech and telecom boom and with all of this artificial intelligence hype? Check it out.
Skinny and pale, look like they're dying.
All right, everybody, just a quick announcement, a little interesting announcement here. This is New York City's Billionaires Row. We're walking down it right now. This building, that's right across the street from the Carnegie Hall, right here. This is 157 West 57th Street, right here. This was the first building ever constructed on New York City's Billionaires Row, and the developer is Extel. Now, Extel also, a few years later, went on to build this massive building here, Central Park Tower. Now, there is one final sponsor unit left. There's only one sponsor unit left at 157, and it is a one-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom apartment with 397 square feet of dedicated outdoor space overlooking Billionaires Row. It's the last sponsor unit left, and then 157 will have achieved a 100% sellout. Now, I've gained access to the apartment, so thank you to our friends at Extel, and I filmed a property tour on the 32nd floor, unit 32D. So if you guys want an inside, behind the scenes look at the last sponsor unit ever at 157, I'm going to be sending it out in next week's newsletter. So if you scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, you'll be signed up to receive all of our market research as well as New York City property tours, where we give you guys an education on all the top New York City real estate developers and take you behind the scenes on some amazing projects. And that one is what I'm really excited about. 157, the last available sponsor unit in the building. I'm going to give you guys an exclusive tour next week. Let me go ahead and plug in my phone here. My battery's almost totally done. Let's see. Oof. Now, it's funny because, 157 West 57th Street, there's only 2 units in the building that has its own dedicated outdoor space. One of them is an amazing penthouse on the 62nd floor, and the other one is a 1-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom apartment. It's kind of interesting, right? So, let me see if I could see it from here. I think it's one of these. It's in like one of these little domes here. Anyway, but yeah, one of 2 units in the entire building that has dedicated outdoor space on Billionaires Row. Now, it's a smaller unit, right? It's a 1-bedroom. But it'll be cool to see the last sponsor unit, because that will sell in time, and then there's only resales available in the building. Kind of cool. Hey, TK Porsches, are there any further new super tall projects about to launch new construction phase? Not any mega super tall like Billionaires Row style on Billionaires Row. There is a few commercial office towers in the mix that I'm really, really excited about. Now, this building, everybody, is 217 West 57th Street. This is Central Park Tower. Again, this is Extel, so Gary Burnett's development company, and we just have some breaking news here. the duplex that sits just under the triplex right here at Central Park Tower. It was on the market for $150 million. It just went under contract and sold for, I believe, $110 million. That's a record-breaking sale that was just done right here on 57th Street. Kind of crazy. Hey, NBA Elias, Tom, have you talked about the Capital One Discover merger? What are your thoughts about it? I think it's a good fit, but I don't know if that's going to get done. I think there's going to be a lot of pushback. We'll see. Now, did you see what Elizabeth Warren said about it? Although maybe that's not a good gauge to talk about, because I'm not sure if there was any proposed merger that she was in favor of. But she made a big statement today on Twitter, on X, saying that it's horrible for the country. This is just another monopoly. It's going to be bad for consumers. I don't know. I'm a Discover customer, believe it or not. I actually, my first credit card was a Discover card. I don't know, what are your thoughts about it? Anybody have any thoughts about the Discover Capital One proposed merger? Yeah, hang with Mark Mom, you're right. You have Brooklyn Diner right here on Billionaires Row. I remember watching a Bill Ackman interview where he said his idea to buy JCPenney, he got the idea sitting in the Brooklyn Diner right there. Now, speaking of Bill Ackman, anybody see the new Lex Friedman podcast with Bill Ackman? If you've seen it, what were your initial takeaways? What were your takeaways? I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, but I will be watching that. The Lex Friedman podcast with billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman. And I think Bill Ackman was the 6th highest paid hedge fund manager of 2023. I think he made like 200 and something million dollars. Crazy. Anyway, this is Vornado's building, 220 Central Park South. A lot of you were putting in the chat that Ken Griffin owns 3 floors of that building. That is true. And yeah, that's the best, I would say the most desirable building on Billionaires Row, 220 Central Park South. Okay, 3 Columbus Circle. In this building a long time ago, there used to be an advertising company called Young and Rubicam. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that company. It actually may still be here, I'm not even sure. But this is 3 Columbus Circle. Ah, Manuel says I'm a Capital One customer, not a Discover card holder. Yeah, I got a Discover card way back. I actually should have got a credit card earlier. That was one of my, believe it or not, that was one of my regrets, is not getting a credit card earlier. Because I tried to, be very diligent, financially diligent, and avoid all debt. But you kind of got to play along, right? If you want to be a part of this capitalistic game we call the United States of America, you need credit or else nobody's going to lend you money. So that was actually a big mistake of mine, is not getting a credit card sooner and building credit. Even if you get a credit card and put 50 bucks on it and pay it off, I should have done that earlier. Because that hurt me down the line. So people are still getting ice cream and it's freezing out. This is up by the Deutsche Bank towers here. You see 1 Central Park West, which is the Trump International Hotel and Tower. Oh, no way. Vinny says Y&R used to be one of my biggest customers back in the day. Very cool. What's up, Vinny? Good to see you. Hang with Mark Mom says I've been with Discover since 2001. Whoa, crazy. and Capital One since 1998. Not a fan of Capital One. We'll keep the account open due to longevity. Wow, Fahim says Capital One was your college starter as well. Tug Carterson, the Fidelity credit card guy. I get 2% on all purchases unlimited. I put all my business and personal expenses on it and it adds up. Very nice. Yeah, it's funny. I think we were just talking about Capital One last night on the stream, right? One of the things that Capital One's trying to do to revitalize the retail banking business is by building cafes, like coffee shops, inside their banks. Or I should say building a bank inside a coffee shop. This is something we discussed last night. I would say, you know, and not to be overgeneralizing here, but if you're under 35 years old, you probably have never been inside a physical bank branch location in a very, very long time. At least I haven't, right? So in an effort to bring millennials and Gen Z into the bank branch to open accounts, you know, to build those business relationships, they're making these Capital One kind of cafes. So people come, there's a co-working space, you could drink coffee, you can get a latte, you can sit down, and there's bank tellers. So if you build that rapport, right, and you see the same people every single day, maybe they're starting a small business, right? Maybe that'll be the next big startup that culminates inside these sort of Capital One little cafes. It's an interesting idea. It's an ingenious idea, I think. Triple G says your broker dealer is Vanguard. Very nice. Now, Vanguard has been in a little bit of controversy lately because they're not going to offer their customers the ability to purchase these new Bitcoin spot ETFs. A lot of the Bitcoiners have been saying this is going to drive mass exodus and outflows away from Vanguard. I don't think so. I mean, Vanguard is such a big, giant behemoth. I mean, I don't think anybody's really going to move funds from Vanguard just because they can't buy a Bitcoin ETF. Maybe over the long run, it'll impact them a little bit, but over the short run, I don't think so. I think it's a bad move by Vanguard, right? Even if, you know, it doesn't align with your core values. If you look at the interest trends of your future customers, right? Vanguard's future customers are Gen Z. Gen Z and millennials are about to inherit the most amount of wealth in human history. It's going to be the greatest wealth transfer in human history that's about to unfold. The generational wealth passed down from boomers, right, baby boomers, to millennials and Gen Z. And an overwhelming amount of millennials and Gen Z want to own some sort of cryptocurrency. They want to own Bitcoin. They want to own Ethereum. So if you don't have a medium for your future customers to transact, I don't know if that's a good business idea. But then again, I'm not a big executive making $20, $30 million at Vanguard. So maybe they're right. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys can hear people playing music in the subway. Hey, Carl Roth. Good to see you. Hey, Elliott Wave Reviews. Tom, I was in Portugal last month, and Santander had free co-working and a cafe inside the bank. Great move as it attracts entrepreneurs who need banking services. Yeah, I think it's an awesome idea. And it makes the space a little bit more lively too. It's more workable. I mean, a traditional retail bank branch is just kind of like a waste of space. You only go there if you need to do that specific activity. If you can culminate different activities into one, it's better use of space. Okay, everybody, this is the Trump International Hotel and Tower right here. And these These little red glowing dots here are unfortunately, I say unfortunately, these are the new congestion pricing. So the city of New York is going to charge you just for driving your car south of 60th Street. It's a bit of a bummer, right? Nice shot of Billionaires Row right there. Ray Bradley says, Tom, I'm moving to New York City in 2 months. Awesome. Super excited for you. You're going to love it. We're happy to have you. If you need help moving here, if you're looking to buy something, you need help, let me know. So at the Trump International Hotel and Tower, you have 3 distinct doors. Number 1, you have a Michelin star restaurant, Jean Georges. I think I pronounced that right. You have the hotel entrance in slot 2, and in slot 3, you have the residences. If you purchase a residence or if you rent, you would go inside the 3rd door there. It's actually a really nice hotel. I've stayed there many times. And this is 15 Central Park West. This is one of the most famous addresses anywhere in New York City. This is nicknamed the Limestone Building. Look at that. Let's cross and check out Central Park. John Kelly says, I rolled my old Vanguard IRA from my past job into one of those I Trust Capital IRAs that actually owns Bitcoin. Very interesting. Very cool. Hopefully we'll still see a snow-covered Central Park. Let's check this out. Not too much snow. Joe says, Tom, I pulled $8.47 million of investment out of New York. Look, I get it. Everybody has their different reactions and opinions to the ruling. I get it and I respect it. I get it. Jimmy B says, congestion pricing is the MTA bailout for not stopping fare abaters. That's actually, I mean, man, that's actually very well put, to be honest. You know, not to be too negative, but sometimes I feel as if I'm the only one paying the fare. Particularly after like 7 p.m. if I'm coming back from a showing or something. It's crazy, right? I'm coming back from a showing. It's like 7 o'clock at night. I'm on 23rd Street. I'm fishing out for my phone to try to use the Apple Pay to, buzz into the subway. And there's like freaking 3, 4, or 5 people just jumping over the turnstile. I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who's actually paying this fare in the city. Anyway. Hey, Kevin Sunderland, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for your $10 donation. Appreciate you. Hope you and your family are well. Says, hey, long time no chat. Always pay off credit card balances every month. 10-4 over and out. Agreed. Kevin, hope you're well. Happy New Year. Always a pleasure to see you in the chat. And thank you for your support and your wise words there. Hang with Mark, Mom. So another really nice hotel is right inside this building right here. Right inside 157. It is the Park Hyatt Hotel. That's a really nice one. So you have quite a few 5-star hotels in this quite small vicinity here. You have the Trump International Hotel and Tower right here. You have the Park Hyatt at 157. You have the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, which is right in this tower at the Deutsche Bank Center. That's another 5-star hotel. So you have pretty much 3 5-star hotels. You also have the Ritz-Carlton Central Park South. So 4 5-star hotels within probably 4 or 5 blocks. Western Mass Dave, appreciate you. This is Tom for Water for Your Throat. When does D Douglas Elliman open in Miami? Need to get you some sun. So soon, fingers crossed, Dave. I will be back in Miami March 1st, which I'm very excited about. March 1. Thank God. I'll be back for like 5-6 days. I'm looking forward to getting some much warmer weather. But Dave, thank you so much for your generous donation as well. Appreciate you very, very much. Daniel G says, what happened to NVIDIA? We'll find out tomorrow. They report. Today, Palo Alto Networks reported, big cybersecurity company. They were down big after hours and also pulling other cybersecurity companies down too, like Zscaler, CrowdStrike. But NVIDIA's up on the chopping block tomorrow. And NVIDIA makes about 4.5% of the entire S&P. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be all about the guide, is the sort of theme for tomorrow. It's all about how NVIDIA decides to guide. Well, not decides, how they guide. All right, everybody, but it is getting quite chilly. It's getting quite cold, and I got to get home. I got to be up quite early tomorrow. But if you all enjoyed this walkabout tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. If you enjoy these conversations we have about the financial markets, about New York City, and the real estate industry in New York and Miami, feel free to scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, because we write a detailed financial newsletter every other Thursday, and we send it out to the group here. We just sent out our third issue for 2024 on Thursday, so that is out. Check your email or scan the QR code. But sunshine after rain, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining. Richard Vogel, Austin City Limits, Doggy, Walking Minnesota, Lena Sandoval, Richard Scott, all of our moderators, Daniel G, thanks so much. Neighbor Bob, Dan Sang, appreciate you as always. We'll connect soon. Mohammed, James Sunderland, James Bond, John Kelly, Western Mass Dave, Chris B, TK Porsche, Brad, Madison 32, Hang with Mark Mom, Alexis, Yesterday 15, and Vinny. All right, guys, always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. See you tomorrow. Take care.